In order to establish a safe atmosphere in which people can live in close proximity to one another and enjoy the highs and lows of life, the objective of neighborhoods is to provide such an environment. However, there are some neighbors who are concealing dark secrets and engaging in heinous deeds behind the veneer of white picket fences and friendly waves. These neighbors are hiding behind the facade. The following compilation takes a look at real-life accounts that illustrate the unnerving and frightening experiences that individuals have had with their neighbors. Real-life occurrences served as the inspiration for these tales. From fighting with a neighbor who turns out to be a spirit to dealing with a deadly scientist who sprays chemicals on the streets with the intention to kill everyone because he does not want to have any neighbors. These are disturbing true neighbor horror stories that will scare you to your bone. Unassuming serial killer who lives right next door. As a resident of a tranquil suburban community, I, along with other homeowners, was taken aback when we learned that the man who lived next door was, in fact, an infamous serial murderer. In spite of the fact that he was committing horrific acts just a few steps away from my flat, he had been able to fit in with his surroundings for years, giving the impression that he was completely normal. When we dug deeper into the house of my closest neighbor with the assistance of the police who came around, we found human skulls, bones, and body parts, which is evidence that my neighbor, who is known for his calm demeanor, has been killing people for pleasure in the area. The discovery caused shockwaves to travel through my heart as well as across the entire community, and it irrevocably altered the way I perceived the familiar faces that were all around me. The fearful house opposite. I am Sarah, a single mother who was abandoned by my husband after 10 years of marriage. However, I was under the impression that I had just discovered the ideal residence for me and my 2 young children in a tranquil community in the suburbs. Nevertheless, I was completely unaware that the couple who lived opposite my apartment, who appeared to be amicable, were hiding a deadly dark secret. One day I became aware of a putrid odor that was emanating from the residence of this neighbor. Because I was so worried about my life and that of my kids been in great danger, I decided to contact the security authorities. During the course of their inquiry, the authorities came into a house of horrors. There was a string of heinous crimes that the neighbors were involved in, including kidnapping, torture, and murder. It was a chamber of dreams, packed with proof of their horrific actions, and the basement of their house was a chamber of nightmares. This realization that I and my children had been playing only a few feet away from such a heinous act was a source of absolute horror for me. Nobody knows what would have happened next if this was exposed. The stalker who lives in apartment 3B. As a young expert working from home residing in a hectic metropolis, I was under the impression that I had discovered the perfect apartment in a structure that was historically significant and suitable for my work. But I had no idea that the neighbor in apartment 3B, who appeared to be nice, was actually concealing an obsession with me. Initially, it was not overt. For example, unusual presents were left at my doorstep, and there were lingering stares in the hallway. As time went on, the urgency of the situation increased. I was surprised to discover that my supposed neighbor, who at that time should have been sleeping in his own apartment, was standing in my bedroom and watching me sleep when I woke up one night. I was so terrified that I had no other option but to call the police, who then found a hidden camera in my flat that was connected to the equipment utilized by my neighbor. He had been following me around and watching every move I made without me noticing. However, I was left in a state of trauma as a result of this shocking occurrence, which highlights the risks that can lurk behind closed doors in even the most attractive surrounding areas. Cannibal in the neighborhood. The Williams family had been considered rather strange in the setting of a tiny town in which everyone knew each other ever since the beginning of time. This perception had persisted until the present day. On the other hand, things took a foreboding turn when the family's oldest son, Mark, moved back after being apart for a number of years. In their capacity as Williams' family neighbors, the Andersons started to become aware of weird events, such as the absence of pets, peculiar odors, and sounds that occurred late at night. One of the things that led to the finding of the truth was the fact that the Williams family's house was searched by the police. Mark had been engaged in cannibalism, which included preying on individuals in the area who were unaware of his intentions. The tightly knit community was rocked to its very foundations by the horrifying revelation that a person who was so close to them had been capable of executing such heinous actions. The cult across the street. The Smith family, who appeared to be a typical family, relocated to a suburban community, bringing with them an aura of mystery into the neighborhood. They encountered icy rejections from their neighbors whenever they attempted to make friends with them. When mysterious symbols emerged on the Smiths' land and creepy chanting resonated from their home at unusual hours, curiosity evolved into anxiety. The Smiths were concerned about the situation. After conducting more research, the community came to the conclusion that the Smiths were members of a cult that participated in satanic rituals and offered sexual sacrifices. A group that constituted a threat not only to the safety of the neighbors who were living in close proximity to them, but also to the fabric of their peaceful neighborhood, had been residing in close proximity to them without their knowledge. The neighborhood was left traumatized and apprehensive as a result of the disclosure, which made them aware of the threat that was literally only across the street. The underground bunker. Reclusiveness was the way of life for the Carter family, who resided in a remote region that was bordered by acres of undeveloped property. Although the neighbors had always been interested in the Carters, they respected their wish to maintain their private. An explosion of great volume reverberated over the tranquil countryside one day, capturing the attention of the whole neighborhood. As emergency authorities hurried to the site, they found an underground bunker on the Carter property that was stuffed with illegal weapons and signs of domestic terrorism by the time they arrived. Despite their outward appearance, the family had been plotting an assault that would have caused widespread destruction throughout the area. The information that was revealed destroyed the illusion of safety that the neighbors had experienced in their hidden sanctuary, demonstrating that danger may surface even in the most distant parts of the earth. The biological experiments. It was revealed that a scientist who lived in a suburban area was working in his home laboratory to carry out some horrible biological experiments. At first, the unpleasant scents that were coming from the residents were judged to be innocuous. Nevertheless, subsequent investigations revealed a horrible truth. Because of the long-term health ramifications, people of the area were forced to deal with the repercussions of living next door to a mad scientist. The neighborhood was unintentionally exposed to harmful compounds, leading to the death of a full family of 4 who were suffocated due to the strong chemical smell. This horrifying accident at the neighborhood sent a traumatic wave and great fear into the community, spiking a question like, which family will be the next victim? The haunting next door. I and my wife are a young couple expecting our first baby. We moved into a charming old house with a dark history. As we settled in, we began experiencing inexplicable phenomena, strange whispers in the night, shadowy figures in the hallway, and chilling cold spots. It turned out that our neighbor's family had been plagued by tragedy, and the lingering spirits seemed to have found solace in tormenting the new residents. The boundary between the living and the dead blurred, turning our dream home into a nightmarish haunting ground. With this continuous battle between deep blue seas, we could not bear to call the police. However, when the police arrived, they could not find anything. Then we realized that we were not fighting humans but spirits,